I should have taken the time to make it into a short 1 or 2 paragraph bulleted form, but I didn't do that. You had, you're an Army intelligence officer, right?
Say that again?
You're a former Army intelligence
Oh,
officer?
right. Former military intelligence analyst. 97 Bravo.
So you know who Bobby Ray Inman is?
No.
Don't know who Bobby Ray Inman is?
No.
He is, he rose from being a intelligence analyst to the head of the NSA, deputy head of the CIA. He was it was Bill Clinton that wanted to make him Secretary of State, and he withdrew his nomination for that.
Oh, okay.
And he graduated from high school at 15 and college at 19. I don't know how anybody does that. I mean, I was sort of a prodigy as a student, but they tried to put me ahead one year, and I was kind of lost. So.
I was with a photo interpretation center in Korea. I was at Yongsan Barracks, Seoul, Korea. Had a top secret SBI clearance, special background investigation, and worked with image interpreters.
So the guy who used to develop my photographs for me, he was my sparring partner. He was a photographic developer for somebody in the military, and so he basically did what would be the preliminary of what you did. You know, if they took aerial photos, he would print them and make sure they were, you know, in proper order for somebody like yourself.
Right. So
anyway, you trained elite troops with U.S. Army Special Forces, 101st Airborne, really?
Yeah, I was with Op 4 opposing forces, and I had an H identifier, which made me an instructor, and I taught the Soviet threat to elite forces.
So what did you teach them about the Soviet threat? In general.
Yeah, like kill zones, using the WEF system, wings, engine, fuselage, tail section of the kill zone on various aircraft and stuff like that. Taught them how to use the AK-47, SVD sniper rifle, various Soviet weapons.
Just in case they got in war, they needed to use the enemy's weapon.
Right. And I would give like a little speech. I would say the Soviet soldier is and must be considered a formidable foe. We must attempt to understand why and what makes him a good soldier. Is it his attitude, his background, his family, or the weapons that he uses?
You have a Guinness Book of World Records dance record?
Yeah, I danced 8.5 days, 205 hours for a disco marathon. Yeah, I had a 5-minute break on every hour, and I was featured in Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Well, how can you have a record if you got a 5-minute break every hour?
That's what was allowed. So if you did a dance marathon for the Guinness Book of World Records, you're allowed for a 5-minute break. So if you had to do a number 2, you had to do it during that 5 minutes.
So you're really into comic books?
I was into comic books. I used to be part of the comic book industry.
And you became involved in reviewing comics and interviewing comic book creators for Jasmine. So did you talk to anybody who's famous?
William Shatner. William Shatner had his own line of independent comic books, and I did an interview with William Shatner.
So, well, you didn't let me finish. Okay. So, when I say famous, I didn't mean famous as an actor, or even famous connected to comics, but famous as in a famous comic book related person, as in directly related to comics, as in like
Stan Lee?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't interview Stan Lee, but I presented him with the PCBN Award, which is the People's Comic Book Newsletter.
So you've done 2,500 investigations.
Yep, about 2,500, yeah.
All right, well, do you have any questions for me before we get started?
No, I do a lot of podcasts and stuff, so I'm pretty familiar with this type of stuff. So whatever you hit me up with, I got the answers.
All right. So if somebody said, well, you must be retired, right?
Yes, I am.
So if somebody said, what did you do for a living, and you were still in your last job, what would you tell them?
I was working for the Department of Fish and Wildlife.
And what did you do for them?
I was a supervisor. And I was also, too, I was the person that dealt with legal matters with enforcement and with various attorneys when people had complaints about hunters and fishermen and scientific collectors and stuff like that. I provided them the information for their court cases.
So the people you supervised for the Fish and Wildlife Department, which people did you supervise?
People who dealt with scientific collecting, trapping, guides, hunters, fishermen, restricted species, the whole shebang.
So you supervised people that dealt with government regulations related to wildlife?
Exactly.
How long did you do that?
Oh, God. I don't know. Probably about 8 years.
So of all the things you've done in your life, as far as making money, if I asked you what did you do for a living, would you go back to your last job with the Fish and Wildlife, or would you think of your military with special forces, or which part of your life?
I would briefly mention Department of Fish and Wildlife. I wouldn't go into a lot of detail about it because Department of Fish and Wildlife doesn't like a lot of their business out in the public. So I would just kind of briefly skim on that and then talk about my time with military intelligence and my time in the Army.
So, as a military analyst, intelligence analyst, did you do humans, or what type of intelligence did you deal with?
My job was working with the image interpreters. If they saw a T-72 tank on a sit map, they could tell you that it's a T-72 tank. I mean, image interpreters with reconnaissance aircraft, reconnaissance satellites. So I dealt with image interpreters.
Okay. All right. I think I got a general idea of who you are, sort of.
Okay.
Vaguely. Vaguely. Very
right.
vaguely.
All right.
Do you have any time limits?
No.
Okay. All right, here we go. Let's see. Let's click the wrong thing. Let's see. It's right down here. All right, so let me see if I've got everything on my side. All right, here we go. Let's do it.
Okay.
We're recording. Good night, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's show. Tonight's episode of Profound States. Tonight we have a very very special guest. His name is Paul Roberts. He has, like most people my age or around older, he's done a lot of different things in his life, from working with high-level clearance for the government, doing analysis, intelligence analysis of images, to working for the fish and wildlife area of the government. He has a Guinness Book of World Records for dancing 205 hours. He's been into comic books, like most of us have been. He is co-owner of the Halo Paranormal Investigations Group and has been responsible for 2,500 investigations of paranormal events, and including such things as Area 51, Skinwalker Ranch, Mount Shasta, and many others. And has traveled to 59 countries. Welcome to tonight's show, Paul Dale Roberts.
Thank you, Charles. I'm happy to be here.
So, I see if I can get all this straight here. Okay, so, did anything interesting happen to you before you started investigating paranormal? Anything like the paranormal or ETs or anything odd or unusual?
As a small child, I lived in a haunted house. A lot of terrible things were happening to me. The entities were actually focused on me. And there was a time where an entity actually pushed me into a heater. I was enticed by an entity that was mimicking my mother. My mother was in the kitchen, and I'm looking out the bedroom window, my bedroom window, and there was a female voice, which sounded like my mother, trying to entice me to go into the orange grove, and it would say, call me by my middle name, Dale. Dale, come here. Dale, come here. If I had gone to that orange grove, God knows what would have happened to me. Just terrible things were happening to me in that house. I was so glad to finally get out of there. When I got older, I wanted to know.
Hold on. Stop. Okay, so back up. Let's go back. Like all my guests, they tend to throw something really juicy out there and then rush off to the next story. So what I'd like you to do is back up for a second and first of all, where was your house that was haunted?
Okay, it was on F.E. Street in Fresno.
Fresno, California.
Yes.
And where is that in California?
This is smack dab in the middle of California.
Oh, it's north of LA?
Yes.
Okay. And let's get into your experience with the paranormal in the house for a little bit before we move on. So, when you heard when the voice was asking you to go into the field, was it something you heard, how would I put this? Was it using your internal brain voice communication to speak to you, or did you hear a special voice, or how did you experience that?
I didn't hear any kind of special voice. I just heard a voice that sounded like my mother.
But did her voice sound like it was coming external from you?
No. It sounded like it was coming from the orange grove.
Oh, so you heard a voice that sounded like your mother coming, what you thought was she was in the orange grove.
Right.
And so did it fool you even for a second?
No, because I didn't go into the orange grove.
But I mean, how did you know it wasn't your mother?
Because my mother's in the kitchen.
So you knew she was in the kitchen?
Yes.
relation to this thing as a child. Anything else that you can mention?
No, that they were just attacking me.
Okay, so when you said they were attacking you, besides asking you to go into the orange grove, how else were they attacking you?
Oh, this guy is a nut.